The sound of thunder wasn't from the sky, it was from the warships tearing through the clouds. Blue lightning crackled across the alien horizon. The once peaceful planet of Virella, home to tall crystal forests and glowing rivers, was now burning. The war came fast and without warning. Humans weren't supposed to be part of this war. Earth had signed peace treaties with the Virellans years ago. But treaties meant nothing when ambition and fear took over. The Virellan king had made enemies across the galaxy. His daughter Princess Celia was hidden deep inside the royal city when the first missiles struck. She was blind by birth and had no legs, only mechanical supports that often failed. Her mind, however, was sharp, too sharp. Her enemies feared her because she could still outthink most war generals. That's why she was targeted. When the city walls fell, the people ran. The palace guards vanished. The queen was killed trying to protect her. The king had disappeared. Celia was left in her room, sitting alone in a vibrating chamber, listening to the distant explosions getting closer and closer. She tried calling out, tried crawling across the broken floor when her leg supports failed, but no one answered. Her voice echoed into empty halls. No one wanted to bond with a disabled and blind princess. Not for protection, not for politics, and definitely not for love. Far above, in orbit, a human cargo ship was passing by. It wasn't military. It wasn't even supposed to be in the system. The pilot, a former soldier named Eric, had been delivering supplies to a nearby moon. But his sensors picked up something strange, a royal beacon, weak but active. He frowned, hesitating. Getting involved in alien wars wasn't smart. It was dangerous. But something pulled at him. He landed in the ruins alone. He walked through smoke and bodies. Buildings leaned like they were about to fall. Most Virellans avoided him, some even spat in his direction. To them, humans were selfish. Always watching, never helping. Eric didn't care what they thought. He followed the signal into the broken palace. Blaster burns covered the walls. The smell of burnt electronics and death was thick in the air. Somewhere below, he heard quiet breathing. A single breath, shallow and shaky. He raised his weapon slowly just in case. Then he saw her, curled up in a corner of a half-collapsed room. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes cloudy white. She had long silver hair tangled with dust and blood. One of her mechanical legs sparked uselessly. She heard him and tried to sit up. "Are you here to finish me?" she asked, voice dry, without fear. Eric didn't answer. He stepped closer and put away his weapon. "I'm human," he said softly. "And no, I'm here because I heard your beacon." She laughed, but it sounded tired. Everyone heard it. Everyone ignored it. "I didn't," he said. Her head tilted slightly. "Why?" "I don't know," Eric replied, "but I couldn't just fly past." She sat quietly. Then, in a soft voice, she said, "They call it bonding. In Virellan law, to save a royal in distress is to bond with them, body and soul. Most find the idea repulsive if the royal is broken." He didn't say anything. "I'm blind," she continued. "My legs are useless. My own people left me." "I see," Eric said. She turned her head toward him. "You don't run. You don't laugh. You don't pity me." "Why? I was broken." "Once too," he said. "Someone picked me up when I thought no one would. Maybe now it's my turn." Outside, the battle sounds had moved farther away. The palace was quiet, but the war was far from over. Eric bent down and offered his hand. "Come with me," he said. "You don't even know me." "No," Eric said, "but maybe I should." She reached out slowly and touched his hand. Her fingers trembled. For a moment, nothing moved. Then the damaged leg brace on her right side sparked and failed completely. Eric picked her up. From that moment, the princess was no longer abandoned. But what came next would test them both. because somewhere in the shadows of space, the ones who wanted her dead had already seen the human rescue her. And they were coming. Not for a princess Dot, but for the one foolish enough to bond with her. Asterisk. The hallway shook again as Eric carried the princess down the cracked marble stairs. His boots slipped on the loose stones, but he tightened his grip around her. She didn't weigh much. She didn't speak either, not for several minutes. Her head rested lightly against his chest, her breathing shallow. "Where are you taking me?" she asked quietly, voice steady despite the noise of falling debris around them. "Somewhere safe," Eric said. She didn't ask what that meant. Outside the palace, fires burned along the horizon. Distant shapes moved through the smoke soldiers. Machines, something in between. Varela was still at war, and Eric didn't want to find out which side those shadows belonged to. He reached his ship parked on a collapsed landing pad. It wasn't meant for passengers. It had no comfort, no healing beds, just a pilot's chair and a cargo hold filled with crates of dried food and fuel cells. But it was fast, and right now, that was enough. The ramp hissed open. He stepped in and closed it behind them, locking the outer shell with a heavy clang. The hum of the ship's generator came to life, steady and deep. He gently laid her down on the padded edge of a crate and grabbed a blanket from his locker. Her face was turned upward, toward the ceiling. "I hear them," she said. "Who?" "The ones who hunt me. They call themselves the heirs of purity. They think my existence shamus the royal bloodline." Eric didn't like the sound of that. "They wear white armor," she continued. "Always clean, always polished. They smile when they kill." He sat down beside her. "Then we won't let them find us." "They already have," she said. "They follow the signal of my blood." Eric frowned and opened a storage drawer, pulling out a tool. "Then we cut the signal." He lifted her arm gently and found a pound. Tiny blinking implant near her wrist. It was buried under thin blue skin. He touched it with the tool, and it sparked, reacting to the foreign signal. "I'll burn it out," he warned. "Do it," she said without hesitation. He pressed the heated tip to the implant. She gritted her teeth but didn't scream. The light blinked twice, then stopped. Eric exhaled. The ship jolted slightly as it began lifting from the surface. "Name's Eric. By the way," he said after a moment. "Celia," he repeated. "Nice to meet you." She gave a tiny nod, as if remembering how names were used in old peace ceremonies. Then she fell asleep. Eric flew low through the ruins, staying close to the ground to avoid enemy radars. His hands were steady, his mind alert. He hadn't fought in years, not since the last human conflict, but instincts didn't die easily. Every movement outside the cockpit, every flicker of light made him tighten his grip on the controls. A red flash appeared behind them. Then another missile lock. He pushed the throttle. The ship screamed forward. Outside, in the smoke-covered skies, a sleek white vessel followed. Its sharp wings glowed. Inside it, the leader of the heirs of purity leaned forward, watching the forward, watching the human ship escape. "Found her?" the alien commander growled. "A filthy human is protecting her." Curious. His second-in-command leaned closer. "Shall we eliminate them?" "Not yet," said the leader. "Let them run. Let's see where he hides her. She will suffer more that way." Back inside Eric's ship, alarms buzzed. He twisted the controls and dropped into a deep canyon, skimming the edges of dark rock. The missiles lost tracking. The sky cleared, but Eric knew this was only the beginning. Later, Celia awoke to the sound of silence. The ship had landed somewhere dry, quiet, distant. She couldn't see, but she could feel. The air was cold. The ground didn't vibrate with war. "Where are we?" she asked. "A mining outpost," Eric said. "Abandoned for years. No one. Scans here." We'll be safe for a while." He helped her sit up, wrapping the blanket tighter around her. He handed her water. She drank slowly. "You really don't know what bonding means to my people, do you?" she asked. "I have an idea." Eric said, "I don't care." She tilted her head. "You might care later. It's not just protection. It's connection. Life deep. You saved me. You touched me. You carried me. That ... binds us. I am yours now by Virellan law." Eric looked away for a moment, then looked back. "No," he sighed. "We don't own each other. Not here. Not in my world." Celia reached out, her hand lightly touching his chest. "Then what are we, Eric?" He didn't answer, because even he didn't know yet, but he could feel it. Something was changing. Not just the war, not just fate, but something inside him. Something warm, something real. And in the dark, far above them, the white ship circled like a ghost, waiting to strike. Asterisk. The mining outpost had no lights, no working power, just dust and silence. Once, it had been used by Virellans to dig deep into their planet's crust for energy crystals. But the crystals ran dry, and the workers left. Now the building stood like skeletons, tall metal bones under a purple sky. Eric walked through the wreckage, carrying scraps to fix the ship's damage. He knew they couldn't stay long. The enemy was patient, and they had better tech. Sooner or later they'd find the outpost. Inside the ship, Celia sat up on the crate where she had rested. She ran her hands along the edges, memorizing its shape. She hated sitting still. She wanted to be useful, not just a burden. Her fingers touched a panel near the floor, one she hadn't noticed before. Her hearing had grown sharper over the years, and she picked up faint sounds like humming behind the wall. She knocked gently on the metal. Hollow. Then again. Hollow. But something moved inside. Suddenly the wall clicked and a small panel opened. A drone around, floating orb hovered out, its red eye blinking. It made a soft sound, then spoke in broken Virellan. "Medical. Assist, sequence, active." Celia leaned closer. "You were left behind," she whispered. The drone scanned her. "Royal blood. Confirmed. Disability detected. Initiating support protocol." A small arm extended from the drone and touched her leg brace. She flinched, but it didn't hurt. The drone made a whirring sound, then released a soft beam of light. Within seconds, the sparks from her leg brace stopped. It stabilized. Celia blinked in surprise, though she couldn't see. She could feel. Her legs worked out, not fully, not perfectly, but better than before. When Eric returned, she was standing. Unsteady, but standing. "What the hell?" he said, nearly dropping the metal in his hands. She turned her head toward him, smiling faintly. "A repair drone. You missed one." He walked over quickly, catching her just as she nearly fell. "Careful," he said. "You're not fully healed." "I don't need to be," she said. "I just need to move." He helped her back to the crate and looked over the drone. "I thought all the tech here was junk." "So did they?" she whispered. Eric frowned. "You mean the ones hunting you?" She nodded. "They don't know I've started healing. That gives us time." Eric glanced toward the dark hills outside the outpost. "Not much time. They'll come." That night, Celia sat near the ship's engine while Eric worked. She listened to the sound of his tools, the rhythm of his breath, the pauses when he thought too hard. She spoke softly. "Why do you do this?" He didn't look up. "What do you mean?" "You're risking your life for someone you didn't know. Someone your people see as a stranger, maybe even an enemy." Eric paused. "Because I don't care about politics," he said. "I've seen what war does. It breaks people. If I can stop that from happening to one person, even just one, then maybe I'm not broken anymore." Celia sat in silence for a long moment. Then she said, "In my culture, bondmates share everything. Pain, hope, secrets. Are you ready for that?" "I don't know," he said, "but I think I'm learning." A sharp beep echoed through the ship. Eric jumped to his feet and ran to the control panel. Red light flashed across the screen. Celia stood too, her repaired legs shaking. "What is it?" she asked. He didn't answer immediately. He stared at the display data tracker. Somehow, the enemy had marked the ship. "They found us?" Eric said dot before either of them could react. The ground outside exploded. Fire and wind slammed into the walls of the outpost. The white ship had returned. It dropped 3 pods, and out of them stepped armored figures, their faces hidden behind chrome helmets. Eric grabbed his rifle and opened the hatch. "Celia, stay back," he shouted, but she followed him. She wasn't hiding anymore. Outside, the enemy commander walked forward, his white cloak dragging across the ash. "Human," he called. "You stole what does not belong to you." Eric raised the rifle. "She's not a thing. She's not yours," the commander laughed. "You bonded with a defect. How noble. How tragic. You'll die for it." "I've died before," Eric said. "You're just a ghost I haven't dealt with yet." The two sides stood in silence. Then the shooting started. Celia ducked behind a crate, but she didn't stay down. She picked up a piece of broken tech, jammed wires into it, and created a shock charge. When one of the armored men approached Eric, from the side, she hurled it with perfect timing. The blast knocked him off balance. Eric turned and fired. One down. But more were coming. They weren't just fighting for survival now. They were fighting for something deeper. The bond, and neither of them would run again. Asterisk. The firefight outside the mining outpost burned like lightning across the broken earth. Dust and smoke curled through the air as laser bolts flew in every direction. Eric reloaded quickly behind a rusted support beam, his hands moving from years of habit, not thought. Celia crouched beside a pile of shattered crates, sweat running down her temple. Her repaired legs trembled from the shockwave of the blast, but they held her upright. The drone hovered above her shoulder, its tiny lights blinking as it scanned for danger. "They're surrounding us," she said, her voice steady despite her fast breath. "I know," Eric replied. "I'm trying to make them regret it." The white armored soldiers moved with precision. One of them fired a pulse grenade that exploded behind Eric, sending chunks of metal flying. Eric rolled to cover, blood dripping from a shallow cut on his forehead. A voice boomed through the air. "Eric of Earth, give up the crippled royal and we'll let you live." Celia froze. "They're not even hiding it," she whispered. "They still think I'm useless." "They're wrong," Eric said without looking at her. "And they'll find out the hard way." She swallowed her fear. Then she pressed a button on the drone. It made a high-pitched sound and dropped down, scanning the outpost's broken floor. "Drone," she said softly. "Locate underground." "Access." The drone paused, then turned sharply left. Eric saw it move. "What is it doing?" "There's a tunnel beneath us," she said. "Old mining shaft. We can escape." He shook his head. "If we run, they'll just keep coming. You'll never be free." "I don't care about freedom," she said. "I care about staying alive long enough to finish what we started." Eric stared at her. For a moment, he saw something else, someone who wasn't just surviving but fighting. He nodded. They ran behind the drone as it led them to a metal hatch under the rubble. Eric shot the lock. The hatch creaked open, and a long black shaft led down into the dark. "I'll go first," he said, grabbing a climbing cable. She stopped him. "No, we go together." He hesitated. Then they both lowered into the tunnel. The darkness swallowing them. Above them, the enemy stormed the outpost. The commander arrived late, walking among the fallen soldiers. He frowned at the open hatch. "They're escaping like rats," he growled. One of his men asked, "Shall we pursue?" "Of course," the commander hissed. "I don't care if we dig to the center of the planet, bring her to me." Deep underground, the tunnels stretched for miles. The old mining paths were covered in dust and filled with broken machinery. But for now, they were safe. Eric lit a flare. The red glow filled the space around them. Celia walked beside him, unsteady but determined. Her hand brushed the tunnel walls as they moved. "I used to think I'd never leave that palace," she said. "Now I'm walking through an abandoned mine with a human I barely know." "You know me better than most," Eric said. "You trusted me. That's more than I can say for half the galaxy." "Not trust," she replied softly. "Something deeper. I don't know the word for it yet." They stopped near a broken lift station. Eric sat down, checking the remaining ammo in his weapon. "Not much left. I don't think we can keep running forever," he admitted. "We don't have to," she said. He looked at her. "I've been thinking," she continued. "They don't fear me because I'm weak. They fear what I represent. A royal mind that can't be controlled. A bond with a human that makes me untouchable under ancient laws. So what do we do?" Eric asked. "We stop running. And we turn this bond into something they can't ignore." "You mean politics?" "I mean power." He leaned back. "That's a dangerous game." "We're already in it," she said suddenly. The drone let out a warning tone. They weren't alone. Shadows moved at the far end of the tunnel. Celia stepped closer to Eric, her voice low. "They found us." Eric stood, weapon ready, but instead of enemy soldiers, two figures stepped out. Not soldiers, miners, VIRL survivors. Their faces were thin, dirty, tired. And when they saw the princess, they fell to one knee. One of them whispered, "Your Highness." "We thought you were dead." Eric looked at her. She stood tall. "Not dead," she said. "Not broken, and not alone." The miners looked up. "Then command us," one said. Eric raised his eyebrows. Celia simply nodded. For the first time in her life, her voice had weight again, and now she had an army growing beneath the ground. Eric could hardly believe what he was seeing, miners kneeling to the blind and wounded princess like she was still sitting on a throne of stars. Their faces were hollow from hiding underground too long. Their eyes were tired, their hands scarred by old tools and years of silence. But the moment they saw her, something in them changed. They believed. Celia stood still, her silver hair dimly glowing in the flare light. She couldn't see their faces, but she could hear their breaths. Sharp gasp of shock, the slow exhale of hope. "How many of you are there?" she asked. One of the miners answered in a quiet voice. 12 here, more scattered. We thought the royals were all dead. We stayed hidden after the palace fell." Eric looked at them and then at Celia. "If we can gather more, we might be able to make a stand. They'll come for us again," she said. "But this time, we won't just run." Another miner stepped forward. She was older, her face marked by time and ash. "We have weapons buried deep, old ones, banned by the king himself during the peace years, but we kept them." "Why?" Eric asked. "In case peace died," she said, "and now it has." They lead Eric and Celia through winding tunnels. At one point, a ceiling had collapsed and everyone had to crawl. Eric helped Celia through, holding her steady as her legs shook. She never complained. Not once. Soon, they reached a storage vault sealed with a rusted biometric lock. The miner placed her hand on it, and with a hiss, the door opened. Inside were crates covered in dust, but the smell of cold metal was strong. Eric pulled one open. Inside were weapons, not just blasters, but sonic blades, shield disruptors, and explosive drills designed for war beneath the earth. You weren't just miners, Eric said. The old woman nodded. We were rebels once, before the crown promised peace. Celia stepped forward. Then now you fight again. Not just for me, but for Virella, for the ones forgotten, abandoned, and hunted. The miners looked at her with wide eyes. We thought. The royals didn't care about us, one said. They didn't, she replied. Not until one of them was left behind too. Eric tightened the strap on his shoulder-mounted weapon. We train, we prepare, we move before they do. Celia turned to him. We lead. He met her cloudy eyes. Together. They worked for hours, turning the underground tunnels into traps and defense lines. Eric taught the miners how to fight. With precision, how to move like a soldier. Celia, even without sight, gave strategy. She remembered the maps of the region from her studies, locations of weak tunnel walls, old exhaust routes, and echo chambers for sound traps. By nightfall, the silence of the deep tunnels was gone. There was energy now. And then came the sound they feared, a rumble. The kind of sound only war machines made. The white-armored soldiers had found them. Eric grabbed his weapon. Positions, stay quiet. Let them walk into the fire. The miners scattered. The drone hovered above, feeding silent scans to Eric's device. Celia stood near the back wall, hands pressed to the stone, listening. The enemy dropped into the lower tunnel. Flashlights cut through the dark like spears. One soldier stepped on a hidden charge placed only minutes earlier by one of the miners. The explosion was small, but enough to scatter their line. Now! Eric shouted. Lasers tore through the air. The miners fought like people with nothing left to lose. Eric moved like lightning, dropping one attacker after another. When a soldier got too close to Celia, she triggered a sound burst through the wall, an old mining tool Eric had reprogrammed. The soldier screamed and fell, his helmet shattering. It wasn't easy. Many miners were hurt. One was killed. But they held the tunnels. And then everything shook. The commander had arrived. He entered the tunnel himself, flanked by 2 enhanced guards. His voice echoed like thunder. This ends now. Eric stepped forward. You've lost. The commander laughed. You've delayed. But you'll never win. She's nothing. Celia walked beside Eric, slow but steady. No, she said. I'm everything you fear. A royal who was broken, and stood back up. The commander lifted his blaster. Eric didn't flinch. You'll have to shoot through me. I plan to, the alien said coldly. Before he could fire, Celia raised a small device, one Eric hadn't seen her take from the vault. She pressed a button. A blinding pulse burst from the ceiling. The commander screamed. The enhanced guards collapsed. Eric caught Celia as the pulse drained her strength. What was that? Old tech, she whispered. One-time use. Anti-royalty. Field. Used to keep nobles in line before peace. You used it on yourself too. I had to. It was the only way to stop him. The dust settled. The white soldiers retreated. The commander lay unconscious, his armor smoking. The tunnel was quiet again, but now it wasn't a hiding place anymore. It was the beginning of something else. Asterisk. The smoke still clung to the air in the tunnels. The scent of burnt armor and melted circuits mixed with dust and sweat. The white-armored soldiers had retreated, dragging their fallen commander with them. For now, the fight was over, but the war wasn't. Celia sat on a slab of rock, her legs trembling under her body. The pulse device had drained her. She leaned her back against the tunnel wall, breathing slowly. Her silver hair was damp with effort, her face pale. Eric knelt beside her, placing a canteen in her hands. Drink, he said gently. She took a few sips. Her fingers were cold. You shouldn't have used that tech on yourself, he said. I had to, she whispered. He would have killed you. I'm not worth that, She tilted her head slightly. You are to me. Eric didn't answer. He only looked at her. Around them, the surviving miners gathered. Some were wounded. All were silent. For the first time in years, they had fought for something again, something they believed in. Not treasure. Not politics. A person. The princess. An older miner stepped forward. There's something you both need to see, she said. Come with me? They followed her deeper into the tunnels. The air grew colder, the walls thicker. Finally, they reached a large vault door covered in faded royal symbols. This used to be the emergency command chamber, the miner said. Built by your father before the peace treaties. He never told the council. Celia touched the symbol on the wall. I remember these. From my childhood lessons. The door opened slowly with a deep groan. Inside was a round room filled with control panels, screens, and a single raised chair at the center. Dust covered everything, but the system still hummed faintly. Eric moved forward, brushing off a console. It's a control center, he said. He built a hidden one in case the palace fell. The miner nodded. He knew one day the royal house might be haunted. This place was meant for survival, and maybe for revenge. Celia stepped toward the center and touched the main console. Blue light glowed. Then a voice filled the room recorded long ago. If you are hearing this, my daughter, then the world above has changed. You are likely alone. If you live, you must know that I believed in your mind more than any soldiers. Strength. I left you this because even blind you can lead. Even wounded you can rule. Her breath caught in her throat. Father, she whispered. The message ended. Everyone stood still. Eric walked up beside her. He believed in you. I didn't believe in myself, she said softly. Not until you came. He looked around. The room. We could use this. If the system still works, we can tap into old satellites, message out to surviving cities, maybe rally others. She slowly sat in the chair. It adjusted to her weight, humming to life. And then she did something no one expected. She activated the beacon. Not the same one the enemy tracked. This one was older, deeper, a royal summons. Within seconds, the system responded. A map appeared, glowing. Over the round table. Eric stepped closer. That's Varela's core systems. Energy routes, troop paths, defense walls. It's all still here, Celia said. Hidden, waiting. But then the screen flickered. An incoming message. Encrypted. SELYI. Leaned forward. Play it. The hologram flickered, then revealed a face. Older, worn, with tired red eyes and a twisted crown. Her father, still alive. The king. Celia, he said, voice shaking. If you are seeing this, I have been captured. The ones in the council turned against me. They used my trust to hand me to the heirs of purity. I'm imprisoned on the dark moon of Varex. They want me to confess to unfit rule, to give up my crown. The message glitched. Don't come for me. Not unless you're ready. They will kill anyone who tries. I'm sorry. I should have never left you. The message ended. Silence filled the chamber. Eric clenched his jaw. They lied to the people. Told everyone he was dead. Celia's hands gripped the console. He's alive? And they're torturing him. Eric stepped forward. Then we go get him. You saw what happened today, she said. That was only one squad. Varex is a fortress. Then we take our army, he said. What we've built here. She nodded slowly. And the ones who called me unfit, who left me to die. She stood, her legs stronger now beneath her. They will learn what it means to betray a princess who never needed sight to see through them. Eric looked at her, and for a moment, it was no longer a ruined tunnel with broken rebels and ash in the air. It was a throne room, and she was ready to rise. Dark clouds hung above the moon of Varax. No birds flew here. No plants grew. The prison fortress stood like a wound on the surface, cold, silent, full of secrets. Inside, in the deepest level, King Virel sat chained. His skin was pale, his robes torn, but his eyes still burned with pride. He hadn't spoken in days, not since they showed him the message of his daughter's escape. They wanted to break him. They didn't, but outside the fortress, change had already come. Eric stood at the edge of a ridge, watching through the scope of an old targeting system. The rebels, once miners, now fighters, moved below like shadows. They had traveled across hidden paths, through deserts, swamps, and poison valleys. Some didn't make it. Many did, and at the center of them all, wearing dark armor and standing taller than ever, was Princess Celia. Her repaired legs moved with purpose. The drone hovered over her shoulder like a loyal pet. She couldn't see the fortress, but she could feel it, its coldness, its cruelty. Her heart beat faster, not from fear but from readiness. Eric walked up beside her. We hit the gate first. Then we draw them into the tunnels. They won't expect a blind woman to lead the charge, she said. Then let's surprise them. The assault began with silence. A power surge shut down the outer scanners. A fake delivery ship, piloted by a stolen ID, crashed into the north wall. Then came the real attack. Explosions ripped through the gates. Rebels stormed forward. Alarm lights turned the sky red. The defenders tried to regroup, but they weren't ready for war. Not like this. Not with the Forgotten rising again. Celia led from the front. Every step she took shook the enemy's beliefs. Eric fought beside her, clearing the path. They broke through 2 levels, disabling power grids, hacking doors, freeing imprisoned voices, scientists, workers, and even old royal guards who had once been loyal to the crown. The final hallway was long. Too long. A defense shield blocked the prison chamber. Behind it, King Virel, chained and guarding him. The commander, the same white-armored leader Eric had faced before. He looked at Celia through his cracked helmet. You made it this far, he said, but you'll die here. Celia stepped forward. I died once already, when my people left me. He raised his weapon. So did Eric, but the commander wasn't aiming at them. He aimed at the king. Celia shouted, No! A blast fired, but Eric jumped in front of it, catching it with his shoulder. He fell to the ground, groaning in pain. Celia screamed, not in fear, but in fury. She charged, slammed the drone into the shield core, overloading it. Sparks flew. The wall fell. The commander turned, but Celia tackled him with surprising strength, knocking him down. They struggled, her hands grabbing at his weapon. She used her legs, once weak, now steady, to pin him. Then she pulled the sonic blade from Eric's belt and placed it at the commander's neck. Tell your people, she said, voice like thunder. The blind princess sees more than they ever did. And she is not alone. He stared up at her and did not speak. She stood, turned away from him, and ran to her father. The king lifted his head. Celia, she dropped to her knees. I came. His eyes filled with tears. You're not the broken one anymore. I never was, she said. They just told me I was. Later, outside the fortress, Eric sat on a crate with a fresh bandage across his shoulder. Celia walked to him, guided by the sound of his breath. You saved him, she said. You saved me first, he replied. She sat beside him. The people want a queen now, she said. And what do you want? She smiled softly. To build a world where no one is left behind again. Especially not the broken. Eric looked at her. And me? You're already bonded to me, she said. Not by law, not by force, but by choice. He took her hand. I choose you again, he said. And together, a human and a once refused Alien princes looked to a sky that no longer belonged to kings or war. Or hey, it belonged to them, and the world they would build.